Hello everybody, Brett here. Welcome to our new YouTube channel called Get Smart with teacher Brett and Sinan, and we are going to be talking about everything on this channel, so subscribe, like, and let me know what else you might be interested in. And today we're going to be talking about how much money people are making with durian. Now, if you visited Thailand recently, you'll notice there's a ton of people cutting down farms, rubber, fruit, everything. They're clearing the land and spending a ton of money to invest in new durian farms. Now, you don't have to go very far to see some land being developed like this. You got these little trees, they're well trimmed, and let's take a view here. So these trees are about 6 months to a year old, maybe even a shade over a year, depending on how big they were when they put them in the ground. You see, everybody's putting it in, and these people are not poor either. See this beautiful house there, and they're just taking empty land and putting it in. And here is another farm. These trees are about 2 to 3 years old. You can see they're quite bushy, but then look at all this back here. People are going crazy. They're cutting down everything in order to put in durian. Why would they do that? One reason, money. So we're going to talk about that right now. How much money can you make durian farming? So in order to answer that question, there are a few things you need to know first. So invest in durian farms, right? If you don't want to move to Thailand and start your own farm, but you are interested in how much money durian makes, they do have companies out there where it's invest in durian farms. I'm not even sure the names. There's a couple of them where they have operations in durian, and you can buy ownership piece in one of these farms. And is it a scam or is it legit? You know, specifically about each individual one, I don't know. But I can tell you that as of right now, they are making money in durian, and you probably will make your money back unless the price of the durian crashes. But outside of that, if you were interested in one of those invest in durian schemes, I would probably say it's a good deal because the money is quite significant that people are pulling in. The next thing to think about is yearly costs. So of course you make money, you have a lot of revenue, but you also have a lot of costs. So you have fertilizer, insecticide, water, and labor. Those are your biggest costs. The next thing is you have no money for 5 years, and you won't actually get any serious returns until year 7. So that's another big thing to think about. And then one other fun fact is that in Thailand, if you're pulling in $30,000 USD or 1 million baht, you are considered upper class. You are doing well. You are rich. So you might think, oh, $30,000, that's not very much. But in Thailand, that is a ton of money for the average Thai person or family. Also, the country of production, right? So I'm in Thailand. I know a lot about Thailand durian farming. And there's certain things specifically, like foreigners can't own land in Thailand. So it really cuts a lot of people out of the Thai durian market. And also where you're at in Thailand really makes a difference too. If you're up in Chiang Mai or Isan, you probably can't grow durian because the weather's not quite right, the dirt's not quite right. I'm not even sure. But Chantaburi, Rayong, and the south, Nong Kla, Phuket even, if you have some space there, you can grow durian there and you can make a little bit or a lot of money depending on how big your farm is. And if you go to Cambodia or Vietnam or Malaysia, you can grow durian there too. So each country has their own rules for ownership, and that's also something that you might want to look into when deciding which country to go to. Now, my wife is from Thailand, and that's how we do it here. Everything's in her name, and it's all hers, and I love her very much. But if she wanted to, she could sell the whole thing without me and run away, and there's very little security there, so you got to be careful. Now, there's lots of different types of durian too. You got to make sure you get the right one. Everyone in Thailand grows one called Montong, which translates to golden pillow. But now you've got Musang King, which is popular in China. Supposedly it's got a little different taste. I've never eaten Musang King, but that one is going for double than Montong is. And then the last thing you know is the trees, once they're starting to give fruit, if you take care of them well, they can give fruit up to 80 years, so they'll last for you and your kids. So a little more basic info. One durian piece of fruit weighs 3 to 6 kilo. But once you start getting above 5 kilo, the price actually drops, so you got to manage it right, but the average weight is 3 to 6 kilo. You want to keep it between 3 and 5. If you start really watering it and feeding it crazy, you get giant ones, but the meat gets a little weird. So you want to keep it around 3 to 4 kilo if you want to make the most money. Now, at the start of durian season, the price goes up, right? So as the season starts, people are paying 200 baht. They're super excited for it. But then as it goes on and the market gets flooded, because it's only one short season. It goes from pretty much mid-March is the earliest that you see people with durian going through early June. And that's what happens as the durian comes on. So if you as a farmer know how to manipulate the trees a little bit to make the fruit come out, you can end up selling it for 200 baht a kilo, which is about $7 a kilo. But if you just kind of let it come naturally and you sell it in late April, you'll get half of that. So knowing what you're doing in terms of timing the harvest is very important, very useful. You have different grades of fruit. If you really, again, taking care of it is key. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the fruit grades is if you take care of it a lot, you'll get a lot better fruit. And you get grade A fruit, which goes for that 200 baht per kilo. But if you get grade B, grade C, where they're smaller, the bugs attack them, you might not even be able to sell it at all. So, or you'll go from 40 to 80 baht a kilo, less than half of what you get for the grade A. So now for those who are really concerned about getting a return quick, you don't have a ton of money or time, just know that the tree at age 5 and 6 can give 10 to 20 fruits per tree. And then age 7 to 10 will give 20 to 40 fruits per tree. And then once the trees are 10 years old and up, they can give 40 to 100 fruits per tree. And for care, again, care is critical. Care, you have to weed it, you have to monitor it, you got to make sure you give it the right amount of water, and you have to give it the right fertilizer. If you give it the wrong fertilizer at the wrong time, you can end up screwing up your harvest. It'll come out with fruit too late or fruit too early, or it'll grow leaves when you want it to grow flowers. So you need to make sure you really know what you're doing there, or you hire someone who does. And then the last thing is if you can clip the tops of the trees to keep them at a certain height, because it's a lot easier to get the fruit if it's like 5 or 6 meters tall and then everything's down, you got a bunch of fat branches going down. But if you just let them go, they'll get 40, 50 meters tall, and you got to use a really long stick with a knife and cut it and do weird things to catch it. But there are companies out there that can do that, so a lot of people just let their trees get 50 meters tall, and they just tell the company who's picking them, all right, your problem, go have fun picking them. And then that's how they do it there. And if there's too much wind or rain, it can knock the fruits off. So there's a lot of risk involved with this too. The fruit grows during the dry season. So if you just get a bunch of crazy rain during the dry season, which we actually did a little bit this year, it can send a signal to the tree saying, hey, time to grow leaves. I don't need to grow fruit. We got enough water, time to grow. So your whole harvest could get screwed up. Or if you got a big rainstorm or a windstorm come through, it can knock tons of your fruit off, and there goes half your harvest and your whole profit is gone. So again, that's something to think about. Now, the revenue, because the revenue is so different depending on the situation, I'm going to give you a couple theoretical examples here. So the formula for calculating how much money you make, you have the number of trees times the amount of durian times the kilo of each durian times the price, right? So that's how you figure it out. So the first theoretical example right here. Now the low end, for one tree, the revenue can be one tree times 15 durians times 3 kilo times 120 baht per kilo is 5,400 baht, or about $175 to $200, depending on what your exchange rate is with the dollar. Now, if you have a decent year, but not a fantastic year, or if your trees are in the range of giving 25 fruits per tree, you got one tree, 25 fruits, times 4 kilo, because you're getting a little bigger, the trees are a little stronger, hold them up a little longer. At 140 baht per kilo, you're talking 14,000 baht, or almost $500 per tree. And now the last one, the high one, if you're really starting to get some serious master skills and giant trees, 15, 20 years old, you got one tree times 80 fruits times 4 kilo times 150 baht per kilo, and now you're at 48,000 baht. And it is not uncommon for people to be making 45,000 baht per tree if they've got big giant durian trees. So there you have it. That's how much people are making with durian. So I'm going to go into a little more theoretical examples, but if that's all you wanted to know, I don't know how much more this video will be for you, but if you want to get into a little more analysis, let's keep going here. So for our farm, hopefully this is what we can get sometime, right? So low-end prediction, next year, we have about 140 trees on our farm, but they're not quite giving fruit yet. They're still kind of young. But all right, so we have 60 trees times 10 durian tree. So we have 60 trees times 10 durian per tree times 3.5 kilo per fruit times 120 baht per kilo would be 250,000 baht, or about $7,000 to $8,000 USD. Now that might not seem like a lot of money, but in Thailand that is enough for people to live quite happily out here. Now the high-end prediction, we might have 80 trees giving 15 fruit per tree times 4 kilo per fruit times 140 baht. Now we're looking at 20,000 USD. So you can see how it ranges like crazy for the amount of money that you can bring in with durian. You don't really know until you get a feel for it. You do it year after year, and then you never know for the unexpected kind of stuff that can screw up your whole harvest. But generally speaking, next year we're hoping to get between $7,000 or $20,000 and we don't really know. So we're just going to do our best to take care of it, give it what we can, and hopefully we get closer to this 20,000 mark. So once our trees hit 7 years old, we've got 120 trees that can give 20 fruits per tree times 3.5 kilo per fruit times 120 baht equals 1 million baht, or 30,000 USD. And once that happens, we are rich, right? And that's 30,000 you keep. You sell to the company and they deposit that money right into your bank account right as they pick it up from your farm, right? There's no taxes on it. There's no regulatory things. They just pay you for the money, you get it, and it's cash right there. Another beautiful, beautiful thing about living in Thailand. And now at 10 years, hopefully, we have 120 trees giving 30 fruits per tree. 3.5 kilo times 120 is $45,000. And then 15 plus, when the 15 plus years old, we got 130 trees that'll be giving 40 fruits per tree times 4 kilo per fruit times 120. That's $75,000, right? So you can make a lot of money out here. $75,000 in Thailand, you are like balling, big balling. You're talking like 2.5 million baht is enough to pay. You put it 1 year of college at a very good school in Thailand, like one of the best schools in Thailand, is like $3,000. So if you make this much money, you have enough money to pay for your kid's entire college career and their living expenses off of this, right? And it almost seems too good to be true, and we'll get into that a little bit, but that's kind of where it's at. So now we have a friend who has a farm, and their tree age is 25 up. Their parents planted it a long time ago when the price of durian was 5 baht per kilo. Nobody really wanted durian. But they didn't cut it down like a lot of people did, and they kept the farm going. And now they've got 60 trees. You think 60 is not that many trees, right? But they're getting well over 50 fruits per tree, 3.5 kilo per tree, times 120 baht. And they have consistently, the last couple of years, just one lady, she gets about $35,000, 1.25 million baht every year. It's amazing. And a friend's farm, they have trees that are 8 years old, and they've got 500 trees, right? So they're getting 20 fruit per tree times 3.5 kilo times 120 baht per kilo, and they're walking away with 4.2 million baht, $126,000 every year. Now to take care of a farm that's 500 trees, they have a lot of labor costs. They can't do that themselves. They got to hire helpers to do that. So a good chunk of that, probably 20 to 40,000, is lost in labor costs. But they're still walking away with a huge chunk of money. And as those trees get bigger and older and give more fruit, they're every year they're going to be walking away with it. So now, if you want to know how much land costs, right? That's the big question. If you buy the land and it costs, $300,000, you're like, okay, well, if I make 30,000, it's 10 years, that's not a very good investment. 10 years to make the money back. But we'll see in a second. So rye is how they do land out here. So 2.5 rye is equal to 1 acre. 1 acre is 100 by 100 square meters. 1 rye is 40 by 40 square meters. So 1 rye can cost $3,000 to $30,000 USD, depending on the location, your existing water supply, and the road access. So if you want to buy land right next to the road with a river access, unlimited water, you're probably going to pay $20,000 to $30,000 per rye for that. But if you go in the country a little bit, you go on a dirt road, maybe a little more annoying to get to, and you got to build your own water source, you can find land for even $2,000 to $4,000 per rye. And if you buy completely naked land to somebody who's got a ton of land and they just need to get rid of it for whatever reason, they got debts, or they're too old to do anything with it, nobody wants, no family to give it to, you can buy it for maybe even $1,000 per rye. So that translates to 1 acre is $7,500 to $75,000 USD. Now 1 rye can hold 20 to 25 trees. That's another, hopefully that helps people. And then 1 acre can hold about 60 trees. So this is Thailand specific. And unless you are married to a Thai citizen, foreigners cannot own land here. Other countries in the region, such as Cambodia, Malaysia, and Vietnam, may vary, like I said already. All right, revenue per rye. Now so a lot of people think, all right, well, if I do 1 rye, because that's how people buy it. They're not going to buy, I'm going to buy 25 durian trees. They're going to buy rye. They're going to buy land. I'm going to buy 5 rye, 10 rye, 30 rye. And then how much is it going to cost to take care of this? So that's what we're going to talk about here. So revenue per rye can range between 100,000 baht, 3,500 USD, at 5,000 baht per tree, or you can get 400,000 baht per rye, $12,000 USD, as the trees get a little bigger and more predictable with their production. So now you can think about that. If you're paying $3,000 for 1 rye, and then a couple years later you're getting $12,000 per rye every year forever, it's a pretty good investment. But the first 7 years, you're not going to get any of that money back. So the trees that give 40,000 baht can fit 10 per rye. So those big giant trees that give a ton of money, you're not going to have 25 trees on there. You maybe have 10 trees per rye. Because as they get bigger, they start crowding out the smaller ones, and you'll have to cut them down. So you can think, but if you're making 40 to 50,000 baht, or $1,500 per tree, times 10 trees, you're still making 15,000. So the best you can do long term is $15,000 per rye. And a okay year with good trees, you're making $3,000 to $4,000 per rye. So it'll range between $3,000 and $15,000 per rye long term. Now, how much to build the farm, right? You don't just go and buy the land and then the farm magically appears there. You have a lot to do with actually building it, and more to invest, more money to throw down, and hopefully you get your money back when you get the durians 6, 7 years later. How much to build the farm, right? So this is if you want to buy 10 rye. It's a good number. If you're not super rich, but you want to invest and you got some money to throw down, this is what you would be looking at, something like this. So the land cost would be about 150,000 baht per rye. That's a pretty good deal if you're not in the middle of the jungle, but you're not right on the main road. So you're spending about 1.5 million baht, or 50,000, just for the land. Now to build a pond, water is super important. You're going to spend another $4,000 to make a giant pond. That's a really big pond. $4,000 gets you a big pond. And you'll also need to install irrigation. You'll need irrigation and pumps. So this is if you don't have any river access. You'll have to install irrigation plus pumps. That's probably another $3,000, 90,000 baht, and the labor they'll do everything. There's companies out here that can just do it all, start to finish, and you're gonna pay $3,000 to $5,000 for that. And then you also, as a backup, you want to install a water well. I would dig the water well first if I'm starting my farm over again, because the water well is your backup. Because if your pond runs dry, which it might, even a big one, because if the bigger your farm, the more water needs you have. If you've got a big well underground water supply that you can refill the pond with, because you're not next to a river, that's critical. And that'll be another $3,000 if you get a nice deep well, maybe even two, with diesel pumps or solar well pumps. We have a solar powered well. We actually have another video on that if you want to check that out. But that whole thing will cost another $3,000. Cost of the baby tree is about $5 or 150 baht per tree, and you can put about 200 trees on the land. So there's another $1,000. And then if you plant the trees with a bulldozer, you're looking at another, $2,000 to $5,000. We didn't use a bulldozer, so I'm not exactly sure, but it'll probably be there. So you add it all up, you're looking at 2.2 million baht, or $66,000 to put down and say, all right, I'm going to start my farm. I'm going to buy the land and start the farm. 2.2 million baht will get you 200 durian trees. And it doesn't seem like that much for somebody who's sitting on maybe $500,000. Worth the risk, I would say. And if you want to buy a durian farm already that has durian trees that are healthy, you are going to pay a lot more. I can't even tell you, maybe $20,000 to $40,000 per rye for trees that are ready to go. If you're interested in it, you're like, I don't care about starting it and building it as babies. I want to start making durian money now. You're probably going to pay for it. It might not be, it could be a better investment. It just totally depends on how much you pay. You pay $15,000 to $30,000 per rye for a durian farm that's got trees on already, it might be worth it. But you pay more than 30, probably not. I don't know. I haven't done the math on that. And if you're interested in that, you can use this info and do the math yourself to figure that out. Now, your yearly cost, the other big thing, how much are you spending every year on your way to getting fruit? So you got labor. Now, we do everything ourselves, so we actually don't pay this. But for most people, they don't want to do everything themselves, or they can't do everything themselves. So it's going to cost around 200,000 baht, or $3,000 to $6,000. Again, depends on what you do yourself, for a farm of 10 rye. And you're going to have to spray the chemicals. Every week, the trees must be sprayed or the bugs will eat them. They won't grow, they won't look pretty, and it'll take extra years, multiple, before you start getting any fruit out of them. And I would say the chemical you spend is going to be $1,000 to $2,000 a year for trees like that. And it depends how they do it. If they waste it, and it's easy, you'll end up spending $2,000 to $4,000 per year just on the chemicals you spray the tree with. Then you got fertilizer, again, another $30,000, but I'd probably say $1,000 to $3,000 on the fertilizer. The smaller they are, the less they are. That once they get bigger, you give them more, it costs more money for the fertilizer, and what brand you use and everything. And if you hire laborers, they very likely will steal from you and kill your farm. So that's another really, really big risk. How many trees can one person or a family take care of on their own? You're like, okay, I got a Thai wife, I'm going to do a little work, I got some money in the bank, and then I can live off my savings while we wait for the durian. This is for you. So if you have savings and you don't have another job, you could probably take care of 10 to 20 rye with no help on your own. But that's you working, and even with family helping you, full time. 20 rye or less, right? Anything bigger than 20 rye, you have to have workers. You just can't do it all. Especially the trimming is the most annoying part. Now, if you have a really good irrigation system where you can drive a tractor through it and mow it that way, that will help you a lot. So a couple days a week, and if you say you're like an English teacher or something, or you go back and forth to the US and you want to have your brother-in-law help you, 10 rye or less. Anything more than 10 rye is just going to get overwhelmed, and it's going to get neglected, and the trees will die. And you waste all your money. So now a summary. For a 10 rye farm, reasonable cost would be $66,000 plus $2,000 per year for 5 years if you work the land yourself. So total cost until your harvest is 5 years of time and $74,000, or about 2.5 million baht. So that's the time plus money you have to put in if you work it yourself. If you hire workers, the total cost will be $66,000 for the land plus and farm plus $10,000 per year. So your total cost, you're going to spend about $120,000 until your first harvests. So your year 5 revenue, what you're actually going to get back after year 5 is 200 trees times 10 fruit per tree times 3.5 kilo per fruit times 120 baht per kilo is about 840,000 baht or 25,000 USD. Year 6, you do the math. Now you're making 20 fruit per tree, so your revenue is going to be about $50,000 or 1.7 million baht. And then year 7, 200 healthy trees. If they end up giving you 30 fruit per tree, you're making 2.5 million baht, 75,000. And then you add that up, you are back on top. You get your 116 back, and everything you make past year 7 is total profit. So by the end of year 7 or 8, you should recover all of your costs. So it's essentially like buying a house for 116,000 USD and getting 12,000 per month for the first 8 years, and you recover your investment. And then every month after, you get $6,000 per month forever, right? So it takes 8 years for you to recover your investment costs. So you do 116,000 divided by 8 years, so that's 1,200 per month that you're getting when you slice up the revenue you get for those first 8 years if everything's done properly. And then every month after that, forever, you're essentially getting $6,000 per month, right? And again, it sounds almost too good to be true. And that's why you see everybody clear-cutting their farm and putting in durian. Because it is a way for people to get rich. But there's always a catch. Durian caution here, ready? You want to get your hopes up, but then boom, come crashing down. Now, I don't want this to scare anybody to the point where they don't want to do it, because realistically, the money is there. We have friends who have been making this money for the last 5 to 10 years, and they've been doing really well. But there are things that can occur that might blow this whole thing up. So will the price drop? Depends on China. The vast majority of all the durian made in Thailand goes to China. So this year specifically, and I'm going to make another video about this with Sinan, but China is going COVID crazy. They locked 25 million people in their homes in Shanghai. Right now it's mid-April, so this is going on as we speak, mid-April 2022, and they're swabbing durian, right? So they swab durian as it's coming into the country, and a lot of it is testing COVID positive, right? So when the durian tests COVID positive, because, you can test papaya, there's all kinds of stuff that tests positive for COVID. If you give it enough, the PCR tests enough cycles or whatever, you can get anything to test positive for COVID. And when the durian tests positive for COVID, they burn the whole shipment, right? And everything's getting backlogged right now. So the price of durian right now is like 90 baht per kilo low, and people are freaking out, right? So you have something like that can happen, and it throws the whole COVID market into a tailspin. If that kind of thing happens, look, you're going to lose half your money in this year. And the fact it's still 90, I think people should be praising it, because you got people in Shanghai right now jumping out of buildings because they got no food in their apartments and they're locked in. So you never know. Like I said, it all depends on China. Nobody else is going to absorb the durian market. It's not going to go to Europe or Australia. If it doesn't go to China, it means the price crashes, and it's going to get consumed in Thailand at 60 baht per kilo. Now, durian requires a lot of water. Most farms are 1,000 trees or less. You don't have giant corporate farms because of the water needs. Land that has river access is extremely expensive because you have infinite water. So that is your best deal. If you can buy land next to a river, a big river that never dries up, that's what you want. But you're going to pay for it. It requires constant care. Like if your workers quit on you and you don't find new workers, especially during the dry season, if it goes 1 week without water, they start looking really wilty and sad. 2 weeks without water, they're dead, right? They will die. They will just die. They'll just gone, right? So you have to be aware of that. And the bugs, if you don't spray, if your workers just quit and they don't spray, you get the little thrips. They're called priaphi in Thailand. If you want to kill the priaphi. But they're thrips, little tiny aphid-like things that just suck the sap out of the tree, and then the leaves get all shriveled. And it will not necessarily kill the tree, but it will destroy the actual healthy growth of the tree. And if you don't take care of it properly, you won't get any fruit. So year five, the fruit will not come out. Maybe like year 10, you might start getting some fruit if you don't take care of the trees properly. Workers, good ones, are very hard to find. So if you can line something up with a worker before you even buy anything, that I would do that. I wouldn't buy anything and build a farm until you have your labor sorted out. All right, so that's it. Hope you found this interesting. I know it was long-winded, so you don't need to say, oh, he talked too much, because I get it. All right, I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe. I know it was a lot of information. I know we covered a lot in the video. So if you have any other final questions or thoughts, put it in the comments, and I'll try to answer, and appreciate your support. Thank you. Bye-bye.